From Washington, the McLaughlin Group, the American original. For over 3 decades, the sharpest minds, best sources, hardest talk.
Issue 1, Libertarians Unleashed.
And as you can see, for the second year in a row, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul won with 31%. Texas Senator Ted Cruz came in second with 11. Ben Carson came in third at 9. Governor Christie came in at 8. Governor Walker came in at 7. Senator Santorum, former Senator Santorum at 7. And Florida Senator Marco Rubio at 6.
Since Kentucky Senator Rand Paul's stellar showing at the Conservative Political Action Conference 6 months ago, Senator Paul has continued to make waves around the nation. As the 2016 presidential race draws closer, 2 years away, Senator Paul is centering himself at the heart of Republican Party politics. And get this, he has reframed traditional libertarianism. He's repudiated its isolationist character. For example, he'd vote in favor of military action against ISIS.
If the vote came to you, would you vote yes or no?
Yes, I would vote yes, and I would do it in a heartbeat, because I think that radical Islam, ISIS, is a threat to the United States. They're a threat to our embassies, to our consulates, to our journalists.
Question, is Senator Rand Paul a libertarian, and is he leading libertarians towards the mainstream of American politics? Pat Buchanan.
I think that's a fair assessment, John. Rand Paul is not as pure a libertarian as his father Ron Paul was, and Rand Paul's making accommodations to what's happening. For example, he backed off his total cut in foreign aid. He is much tougher on doing battle with ISIS than a lot of libertarians are, who might say just get out of the region. But he's going to have some problems, I think, in the primaries, because the fundamental core of the Republican Party at its elite level is still very interventionist. It's very oriented to Cold War. It's still behind sort of the Cheney-Bush foreign policy. And also you get into some social and cultural and border issues and things like that. And a more traditional conservatism is still dominant in the Republican Party. But he's really, he's been a very powerful force and an effective force for the last 2 years.
Eleanor, twice as many men as women declare themselves to be libertarian. Can you account for that?
Oh, I think men like to think they can do it on their own and they don't need government, and I think women traditionally look to government for a helping hand, because they know they can't count on the men. To add a footnote to that. But as for Rand Paul, I don't think his recent support now for airstrikes against ISIS is redefining libertarianism. It's more putting his finger to the wind and checking where the public opinion is. He's definitely got ambition to run for president. He's putting together a team, and Politico detailed a dozen of people who he considers his insiders. I would point out there wasn't a single woman among them. I think he's an interesting figure. I think he is desperately trying to run away from his father's image. He does not want to be seen as a pure libertarian. He is trying to redefine the Republican Party in some positive ways, and along the way maybe he'll redefine libertarianism, but he does not want to be known as a libertarian first and foremost. He wants to be seen as a mainstream Republican who is modernizing the Republican Party. He may be successful.
Here's a little poll data. Since 1972, the data shows that women are far more likely than men to identify with the major political parties than to call themselves independents or affiliate with minor parties. Politically, women stick with the major brands, Eleanor. Does that surprise you?
No, that doesn't surprise me. Again, women are looking for security in a changing world, and I think the traditional brands offer a little more of that than some of these outliers.
Tom, what kind of a libertarian are you?
I would suppose that I'm a conservative libertarian. I'm not on the Rand Paul side, but at the same time, as a conservative, I recognize there's an incongruity between having, for example, conservatives saying we should be able to have guns in home, but rights for homosexuals, for example, is something that, that we would find uncomfortable. I think Rand Paul's opportunity is that he is very popular with younger Americans. He has the ability to bring in people who would never have considered voting for the Republican Party before. But as Pat points to, I think he's going to struggle in 2016 to deal with that establishment conservative line which is much more interventionist on foreign policy.
Okay, who are the libertarians?
The Pew Research Center reports this about libertarians, quote, "Men were about twice as likely as women to say the term libertarian describes them well and to know the meaning of the term. Men 15%, women 7%, unquote. More college graduates, 15%, identify themselves as libertarians, whereas those with no more than a high school education, 7%, identify themselves as libertarians. There were also partisan differences. 14% of independents said they were libertarian, and 12% of Republicans said they were libertarian, and 6% of Democrats said they were libertarian."
Mort, are you libertarian?
No, I am not libertarian.
You care to say what you want, Mort?
Well, I would consider myself to be a moderate liberal and a moderate conservative, depending on who the candidate is. It's just
depending on what the polls say, right, Mark?
No, you mean it's finger in the wind, huh?
No. I really make a judgment about the candidate in personal terms more than anything else. To me, that's the most important part of anybody's potential to service the country, to work in as a leader of the country, and frankly, in other things too. So you're called an independent? I am an independent, yes.
No party affiliation?
I have no party affiliation. I've never had a party affiliation, although I have predominantly supported Democrats for national office.
You vote more frequently Republican or Democratic?
No, as I say, in the national terms, I voted much more frequently for the Democrats. In state and local terms, I voted much more frequently for Republicans.
You must know some Tea Partiers, do you?
I know them very few of them. I never get invited to a Tea Party.
You think the Tea Partiers are libertarian?
No. I don't think they're libertarians. I think they just have a political philosophy that I think
they're
is
small
is
government,
pretty much.
John. That's one of the libertarian issues.
Right.
It's that where Rand Paul and all the Republicans are basically together is sort of small government. Although Paul Ryan, he's moving to reform the welfare state and change it to a degree, and Portman and some of these other folks. So it's a real ferment, John. You know what it goes back to, John? You got two great figures in the conservative movement, libertarian. Murray Rothbard is a libertarian figure. You see Lou Rockwell's website, and Russell Kirk is the traditionalist conservative, and they're the polar stars.
Who did Murray Rothbard train? Was it Hillary?
No, he didn't train Hillary. He's a libertarian.
Who am I thinking of?
I don't know, but when you ran for president, that wasn't as a libertarian,
No,
right?
they were both for me, though, both those groups, but they've both come up inside traditionalism, John, and let me say, take a look at Scotland and all these other places. There are two forces. Libertarian is one of the forces, but communitarianism, nationalism, and tribalism are some of the most powerful forces in the world today, and both of them are rising.
Well, yeah, but libertarianism always sounds good on its face, but then when you realize it means cutting off all those wonderful services you enjoy from government, people back off.
All right, don't forget the McLaughlin Group has its own website, and you can watch this program or earlier programs on the web at any time, from anywhere in the world at McLaughlin.com. Could anything be simpler? McLaughlin.com, or more character building?
Right.
Issue 2, democracy or plutocracy?
Since 1990, nearly 35 years, the Washington, D.C.-based CQ roll call has calculated the net worth of every member of the United States Congress, 435 representatives and 100 senators, and then ranked them. To crack this year's list, calendar year 2013 data, of the top 50 richest members of Congress, a member has to be worth at least $7.4 million. Up from $6.7 million 1 year ago. The top 50 are also white. 18% of the richest members are women. 30 are Republicans. 20 are Democrats. First, here are the top 10 richest members from the House of Representatives. Number 1, Representative Darrell, Issa, California Republican, net worth $357 million. Representative Issa is the richest member of Congress, House and Senate. Number 2, Mike McCaul, Texas Republican, $118 million. Number 3, John Delaney, Maryland Democrat, $112 million. Number 4, Jared Polis, Colorado Democrat, $74 million. Number 5, Scott Peters, California Democrat, $45 million. Number 6, Susan Del Benny, Washington Democrat, $38 million. Number 7, Vern Buchanan, Florida Republican, $37 million. 8, Chellie Pingree, Maine Democrat, $34 million. Number 9, Gary Miller, California Republican, $33 million. Number 10, Nancy Pelosi, California Democrat, $29 million.
Question, why does Congress attract millionaires, do you think, Tom Rogan?
I think a big issue is that a lot of people who are millionaires have the financial flexibility to be able to run for office and to be able to take the time out and the investment of time that takes campaigning. Also, I think...
And the money.
And the money. But at the same time, if you look at people who are wealthy, they tend to be, a lot of the time, in positions of, CEOs or positions where they have a lot of influence. And so moving into a national level leadership position perhaps is, to some degree, an extension of that. So I think those are the two factors I would point to.
John, let's take the Rockefeller family. They've got enormous wealth. They inherited it. And Nelson Rockefeller wants to go into public service. His brother, Win Rockefeller, was governor of Arkansas. With their son, the son of one of them out there in West Virginia. He's in public service. They like to go into these things because they've got all the money in the world, and they're not satisfied with that. And I think they want to do something for public service, and it's not a bad thing at all.
Yeah, there are some wonderful examples of families in public service. But I must say, looking at that list, I think if you're an average voter out there, you're not distinguishing between the super rich, the mostly rich, the just rich enough to make it to Congress. People think members of Congress live in a bubble, that they don't really understand their concerns. I just sat in on 2 focus groups of women voters in Little Rock, Arkansas, and in Des Moines, Iowa. And they say, oh, members of Congress, they have their health care, they don't have to worry about feeding their families, putting gas in the car. I mean, the gulf between people and Congress is enormous in this country. Maybe the wealth is part of that, but I think that's a very, voters think everybody in Washington is
a salary of $200,000 almost, and that puts them pretty much out of that's about 4 times the median average.
Okay, roll calls richest senators in the U.S. Senate.
1, J. Rockefeller, West Virginia Democrat, $108 million. 2, Mark Warner, Virginia Democrat, $95 million. 3, Richard Blumenthal, Connecticut Democrat, $62 million. 4, Dianne Feinstein, California Democrat, $44 million. 5, Jim Risch, Idaho Republican, $19 million. Number 6, Bob Corker, Tennessee Republican, $19 million. Number 7, Claire McCaskill, Missouri Democrat, $18 million. Number 8, John McCain, Arizona Republican, $15 million. Number 9, John Hoeven, North Dakota Republican, $15 million. Number 10, Ron Johnson, Wisconsin Republican, $14 million.